I'm going to guess about 80% of the time when I talk to people about moving to Winston-Salem, that Clemmons is a part of the conversation. For people that want, they like being close to the city, but they want a little bit more of that suburban lifestyle, Clemmons almost always comes up in that conversation, and for good reasons. It's consistently ranked the best place in the Triad to live, and that's just not just Winston-Salem, that's Greensboro, High Point, all the towns around there. It has an A+ rating on niche.com, and especially for people that are thinking about moving here from other parts of the country, Clemmons is probably the most well-developed kind of suburb in the Triad. I mean, you can say Kernersville is too, but I think Clemmons is probably just the most well-developed suburb. It's the one that reminds me of most where I moved from in Chicagoland, the suburbs there, meaning there are plenty of amenities, things to do. I didn't have to go to Chicago all the time if I wanted to do something. The town I lived in had its own set of amenities, and Clemmons is probably the most complete suburb like that in the Winston-Salem area. But that being said, Clemmons obviously isn't for everybody. I thought, for instance, I would move here in the summer of 2019. When I relocated. I ended up not moving to Clemmons, but in this video I want to talk about pros and cons of living in Clemmons, and this is going to be in comparison to the rest of the Triad. What I hope to do is give you some information that you can make a good decision for you and your family if Clemmons is the right move for you. I'm Jeff Valentino. I love helping people buy and sell real estate. If that's you, my contact information is below. But the first pro about living in Clemmons is its location. Clemmons is located with really easy access to two highways. So you're right by 40 and you're right by 421. Meaning if you want to head out to wine country or the mountains west of here, easy to hop on 40, head west. You're out there. It's on the western side of Winston-Salem. So that commute is really simple. If you're going to go to Charlotte, again, 40 west to 77, you can get right down to Charlotte really simply. It's also right near Highway 421 as well. So if you need to go into Winston-Salem for work, or if you want to go to downtown or something like that, a really simple drive to get back to Winston-Salem. And this is also good depending on which part of Clemmons that you live in. You might use one of those highways more than the other, but again, it's really easy to get to both of them. So this means while you're in a suburb of Winston-Salem, and Clemmons does not have like Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, but if you need to get to Winston-Salem for that, or Costco or something like that, you're about 15 minutes or so from there, easy access right on the highway. Also being right near 40, it's in a prime area for development of the Carolina core. The state of North Carolina has stated they want to really develop the I-40 corridor as part of that Carolina core. And with Clemmons being right near I-40, that's going to put it in a good position, not just for, development that's going on right now, and there is a lot, but for development in the future with more amenities, more things to do, more shopping, restaurants, and things like that. I think that will just get better as time goes on and the Carolina core gets developed. Last on location on here is it's in part of Forsyth and Davidson County. Because Clemmons covers two counties, down in Davidson County, you're going to have things like much lower property taxes. Your dollar goes a little bit further in housing, gas, and things like that. So a little bit lower cost of living even in parts of Clemmons as well. The first con about living in Clemmons is that it can get a little bit crowded and you can find some traffic here. Now again, this is going to be relative to the rest of the Triad. Even the worst traffic that I've seen in Clemmons, and I'm out there, 4 or 5 times a week at least. Even the worst of it is nothing like, where I came from in Chicagoland. So again, this is in relation to the rest of the Triad, but it can get a little bit busy. Louisville-Clemmons Road, especially, near I-40, can get a little crowded during those commute times. The drop-off and pick-up school lines can get a little bit busy. Sometimes coming in and out of the different shopping centers can get a little bit crowded during those rush hour times as well. So again, first con about living in Clemmons, it can get a little bit crowded. There is a little bit more traffic than other parts of the Triad, but like I said, that's really relative. It kind of comes with the growth that Clemmons been seeing over the years. Next pro about living in Clemmons is you have a genuine small town feel with a lot of modern amenities. You have a lot of the benefits of kind of small town living, friendly people, a little bit slower pace of life, just easygoing in general, but you also have just about all the amenities you could want in a regular sized town. From schools to restaurants to parks, there's just tons of different things to do. I'm not going to give a ton of specifics in this video about places to go, but we did do a brand new article on livinginwinstonsalem.com, a neighborhood guide for Clemmons. So if you go to the site, check out neighborhood guides, look at Clemmons, you can see a list of restaurants, parks, different things to do, neighborhoods, and things like that. But safe to say, whether it's, one of the biggest attractions in the state, the Festival of Lights at Tanglewood Park, or Tanglewood Park itself in general, there's just a ton of things to do in this giant park complex, but there's shopping, independent restaurants, lots of things to do. So again, check out the website if you want a full neighborhood guide. But a huge pro of living in Clemmons is, again, it's just really that kind of self-sustained developed suburb that you don't really find in a lot of other parts in the Triad. Next con about living in Clemmons is if you're an all-night rager party animal, there's not much nightlife here. Kind of back to that small town feel. Things, close down 9:30, 10, streets get empty. Neighborhoods are for the most part quiet. So if you're really looking for a lot of nightlife, you're gonna have to go to Winston Salem. Well, actually, Winston-Salem, we could talk about that in another video, but Winston-Salem is not a big all-night party town like, Chicago, New York, Vegas, or something like that either, but you get my point. That might be a pro for you, but if you're an all-night, out looking for something to do at 2 in the morning, Clemmons probably not going to be the place for you. Next pro about living in Clemmons is there is a huge variety of housing options there. Almost whatever type of home or place you would like to rent, you can find in Clemmons. You want to live in a golf community? We got it. You want to live on a $2 million estate with 35 acres? Got you covered. You like new construction? You want a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, priced in the mid 400s? Got you covered there as well. If you want a less expensive, charming Cape Cod in the low 3s, you can find that. Neighborhoods that have a lot of kids, neighborhoods that have hardly any kids, 55 plus communities, planned rental communities. They're developing townhouses and patio homes. Just a huge variety of housing in Clemmons. The $2 million estate I mentioned is going to be towards the top end. At the lower end of that, we can find condos or something in the low hundreds every once in a while in Clemmons as well. But if you're looking in that just kind of general median price range, got you covered with a ton of different options, a lot of different smaller neighborhoods, and not in the neighborhood kind of way that you might think, because this still is a small town, so think of it more kind of like subdivisions. But whatever housing you need, there's a good chance you can find it in Clemmons. Next con about living in Clemmons is prices are going up. Surprise, just like everywhere else, right? But Clemmons is going up at a little bit higher pace than the rest of the Triad. And with everything we're seeing right now with rents and mortgage rates and inflation, prices in the Triad as a whole are still going up. They're just going up at a much slower pace. If you see the market updates, we talk about this all the time. But prices are going up a little bit quicker than the rest of the Triad. Again, tied back to some of, the village's ratings, its desirability, its growth, and things like that. Prices are going up a little bit more, but it's much less than it used to be, but prices are going up a little bit more here than the rest of the Triad. Next pro about living in Clemmons is the schools tend to be really highly sought after. If you're looking at houses and looking at school ratings, it's probably one of the reasons why you're considering Clemmons in the first place. And even if you don't have kids or you're not concerned about schools and things like that, school ratings do tend to have a correlation in desirability of a property, because if schools don't matter to you, if you ever go sell that property, if it's in a better school district, it's just going to tend to be more desirable in general. So you've seen the school ratings probably on West Forsyth High, the middle schools and elementary schools as well. And even if you're down in Davidson County schools, I can tell you from multiple clients, they don't have as higher ratings as some of the other ones that you'll see, but I have multiple clients that are absolutely in love with the schools in Davidson County. So a huge pro about living in Clemmons is just the overall desirability of the schools. Next con, and I get people offended when I mention this, but it just kind of is what it is. Next con about living in Clemmons is there's not really a walkable downtown area. Now, in an effort to mitigate some of the comments and emails that I'm going to get about that, I don't mean that there's nothing to do. I don't mean that there's no shopping, but when people reach out to me, they say, I love to go to a walkable downtown where I can leave the house, walk to downtown, grab a coffee, or walk to the park. There's not a downtown like that in Clemmons. Of course, there are great coffee shops. There are beautiful parks. There's antique shops, there's mom and pop shops, everything you want. It's just not in a walkable downtown condensed area like, say, Kernersville, for instance. That has a charming little downtown area for a small town. Clemmons does not have the equivalent. Sure, it has all those separate and same amenities like that, everything you would want like that. It's just you're going to have to drive here and there and there to get it. It's just not that walkable downtown, especially when people think of those cute, small southern towns. Clemmons is really just lacking in that regard. If you need help buying or selling real estate in Clemmons or anywhere else in the Triad, I'd love to be a resource for you. You can reach out to me directly at jeff@govalentino.com. Thanks.